Okie dokie, hello, here we are. So welcome everyone to our Unlimited Network Mastermind. And today is March 7. And here we are together getting every week to really support ourselves as conscious entrepreneurs and to raise our consciousness, to learn the laws of the universe or God or whatever we want to call it here, but to really manage our business from a place of consciousness and I will say flowing with creation. You know, we want to manifest our dreams and to really go for what we feel, you know, inside our heart that we want to give the lifestyle that everyone choose, you know, whatever you choose here. That's what we are learning, how to really manifest that from a place of harmony and alignment. So I'm very happy to be with like-minded people, excited about that. I really feel like the more we embody higher consciousness, the easier it's going to get this. So I'm very enthusiastic on keep growing in consciousness. And before we go to our amazing book that I'm very curious about the chapter of today, how everybody will interpret that, but I would like to open just 1 minute or 2 minutes on the space to really give us excitement about this empowering model business that we have with that we call the second wave of social media. I think that for us to offer to people, to invite people to join us, we need just to connect with how empowering or powerful that instrument, that vehicle, that business vehicle is. So I would love to hear from you, Arne, just in general, but to kick us so we can go out and invite more people, okay?
Okay, sure. I'm very excited about it. Some years ago, the the business avenue that we had was that could give us our dreams easily or without a lot of investment was called MLM, network marketing. And myself, I've done that now, I think, for more than 20 years. And I've had my successes, and then it's been down like life is, coming in and out. And but there's always that dream that it's possible. It's like the driving force, and that was always there, even though that most of the time was not actually getting there, but the dream was still there. And then over the last 10 years, we all have been observing that we have been using social media to uh, uh, present that to the world, to present the MLM, the dream, to the world, and the products that we had with it. And at the same time, we have seen that the e-commerce has exploded on the internet. That 10 years ago, people were a little afraid to buy something on the internet, not sure. Now everybody does it. It's just like going to any normal shop. So the two of those have been, you know, I've been sitting here doing my MLM, and then I've been using the social media, and seeing how the e-commerce has just exploded, and nobody knew how to, if there was a way to combine all of this. And now finally, the thought, or the maturation of thought, that actually we can run the e-commerce through social media, and the people who have those businesses like us and entrepreneurs through social media, the social media users, we can actually get paid for that. So that's enormous, that instead of we going out and finding customers and presenting our product, we are making friends on social media, making contacts, and actually having a good time with people, finding like-minded people, sharing our maybe our passion, our mission, maybe getting some people not only as friends, but also that we can contribute to their lives. In my case, it's in a spiritual manner. So at the same time as I'm doing that, we are doing that on a social media platform, and the platform is providing possibilities for purchase. And we might say that, you know, so what? well, it's been proven over the last 10 years, particularly with Facebook and all the other big social media platforms, that people are buying through e-commerce on social media. So we are there making friends and being a contribution, and meanwhile people are also getting their products that they want to get anyway, and we get paid. And that is just so amazing. So that idea that can happen. So that is almost like evolution, and like getting a paycheck from Facebook or LinkedIn or something for doing what we're already doing. So the thought became mature. Evolution came to this place, and now we are in the place of actually putting it into reality. So there are companies working on making such a platform that provides all of these things, and that's what we are about here on in addition to our inner work that we're doing on Unlimited Network Mastermind. But we're working with that kind of new kind of MLM. It's not even called MLM anymore. It's called the social media, second wave of social media. So I'm glad to be here with everyone and sharing that new journey, because once we have friends, we don't have, like I have to say this also, in MLM we go out and we get 3 people or 1 people, and then next day we meet another people. On social media it's viral, so we get we have 300 friends, 400 friends. Myself, I have 2,000 friends, and LinkedIn have 3,000 friends. So I don't have to do person to person. It's going viral. So that's very exciting, and it can be incredible results, and it will be incredible results.
Thank
Back
you.
to you.
Yeah, thank you, Arne. Thank you. I just want to us to pump ourselves with the opportunity, with the incredible opportunity right now. And I like to say it that way, like we are really in a new organism that is coming out, new way of doing business here, and that really is taking the best of all the businesses around and mixing them together, and then we have access to something like that. So let's get very comfortable with the concept, I will say, so we right now, Arne. So thank you for that. And after that, I would like we are going to jump directly into our amazing Working with the Law book from Raymond Hollywell. And today there is a powerful, very powerful chapter 2 that is called The Law of Sacrifice. And I think every chapter in this book is really, shaking me in some way. The forgiveness last week was very powerful. I was the entire week aware of that too, so it was longer than the sacrifice. Let's see what happened now when we read The Law of Sacrifice. And I would like to invite you, Doc Fran, to lead us like you normally do beautifully, and let's go for it. So let me know if you're ready. Hello, hello. Doc Fran? He was here 1 minute ago, so I'm sure he's something with a microphone or something here. Well, meanwhile, yes, here it is. Hello, Doc Fran. So this is your moment.
All right, I'm here, and I just have to plug in I'm on my little travel computer, and it just started flashing me that it was going to shut down. So let me find a plug to plug it in with, and we'll be in good shape. Hold on. Sorry about the delay.
Okay, well, just completing about the forgiveness of last week, that really, really touched. I mean, that idea that, forgive and you will be forgiven and all that stuff. I mean, I think that I was all week so aware, and for me, forgiveness is like a non-stop activity. from forgiving my own thoughts of negativity, all the projections that I see in front is like, oh my gosh, you know, and be willing to let that go, to forgive, you know, to give it back to source. I mean, was such an incredible work. So I hope I will don't forget. And the truth is I'm enjoying it because I really see myself more and more as the light of, you know, all these limitations. So I'm happy to see that. Okay, tell me if you are ready, Doc Fran.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay, because my screen just went blank for some reason. I plugged the computer in, but I can still hear you. I
can hear you.
Can you see me, or can you just hear me?
No,
okay.
Just hear you.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. I am calling in this morning from my remote office in Key West, Florida. So we've had a wonderful week down here, enjoying the weather and the beautiful oceanfront condo, and my brother and sister-in-law, so having a lot of fun. And I'm excited to do this. I mean, an interesting chapter today called The Law of Sacrifice. And the scripture verse that encapsulates this law is, "Straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leads unto life, and few there be that finds it."
We just lost you. We didn't hear you starting the chapter.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I wonder what happened there. This is very strange. I don't know why it's doing this. Technological challenges. I love them.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
we hear you now.
Okay. Law of sacrifice. The scripture verse that encapsulates this chapter is, "Straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leads unto life, and few there be that finds it." From Matthew 7:14. Every man should have an ideal or a hero. If there is one who has none and desires none, do not trust him too far. A man who has no ideals does not wish to be any greater than he is, and will in time prove a detriment to others. Abraham Lincoln is the ideal hero of the American youth, and that applies to any youth from 6 to 60 or over. Lincoln came from the lowliest and poorest of stock, and yet rose to the highest office in the land that we as a people can bestow. There is hardly a boy or a man today who cannot say that he has had many or more natural gifts and opportunities than Lincoln had. He was plain and honest and determined to get along in his world. He had many faults like all of us. He would rather rest his lanky body in some comfortable position and proceed to tell yarns than to do any work. He was neither as polite nor as polished as his wife wanted him to be. He had but a few dollars in his pocket when he moved into the White House as our president. But money does not make a man. Polished manners do not make him. Even education does not make great a man whose soul is small. Abe's soul began to grow from the seed of thought that was placed in his mind when yet a small lad by his mother, who made it a point to teach him what she could when she was able. One day Mrs. Lincoln became very ill, and knowing that she was dying, called her family around her bedside, placed her feeble hand upon little Abe's head, and said to them, "Be good to one another." She expressed the hope that they live as she had taught them, loving their kindred and worshiping God. She had done her work, and stoop-shouldered, thin-breasted, sad, at times most miserable, without prospect of better conditions on earth, she passed away. She may have dreamed, but little realized the grand future that lay in store for the ragged, hapless boy who stood at her side. Though Abe was quite young at her passing, he would never forget his mother. She taught him a lesson that he carried with him through life. She taught him that the beginning of wisdom is not imposed by discipline, but the beginning of wisdom is first the desire for discipline, the love of it, the voluntary choice of it. Thus he learned that discipline is the high road that leads to everything that makes life worth living. Go to a concert or opera today and listen to the music that captivates the music lovers who hear it. Voices of such artists as McCormick, Lily Pons, Thomas, Eddie McDonald, Moore, and your favorites that you can name. How did they ever happen? They do not happen. Granted that they may be especially gifted, but those final magical results come not by chance or accident, but from discipline. Discipline that is consciously chosen, ardently desired, and patiently persisted in. Yet we hear it said that we are in an undisciplined generation of people. This, however, is not true. In every realm of life, we enjoy the fruits of disciplined research and toil, with results far greater than our forefathers ever dreamed. I shall never forget the thrilling experience I had one evening, sitting in my home before a cozy fireside. The radio was beside my chair, and I casually reached over, turned it on, and selected a prominent station. To my keen surprise, I heard a voice calling Richard Byrd in the Antarctic regions at the South Pole. Excuse me. I then heard the commander tell of the hazards and difficulties that they had met the day before as they unloaded supplies and hauled them to their new home, Little America, over the slope of broken ice and drifted snow. Had he written a detailed report and sent it by letter, it would have taken months to reach us. Yet here, in less than a second, his voice vibrated through the air, and I, like many others, heard him report the happenings of the day. The old miracle workers never dreamed that such as this could happen. Happen, that is not the word. Discipline, that is. It was painstaking scientific technical discipline that produced such a result. Are you still hearing me? Am I live?
Yes,
Yes,
you are.
you
Yes,
are.
you are.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
We are not an undisciplined generation in any realm except one, and that is in our morals. In science, in art, in athletics, in any practical endeavor, we know the worth of discipline. Yet we let ourselves go. We must have our fling. We unleash our instincts and throw off restraint. It is the denial of discipline that characterizes much of our moral life. Men everywhere are awakening to the necessity of disciplining their thoughts and acts. We train domestic animals carefully. We harness the forces of nature to serve us regularly and well. And yet when it comes to ourselves, the most valued of all, we let our thoughts run wild. No one can attain his ambitions until he learns to discipline his mind. He learns to discipline his mental force and is able to control his thinking. No one can be truly religious before his mind is in order and his ideals are brought in harmony with the divine mind. No one can gain wisdom and understanding of life except that he seeks it in God's appointed way according to the law. First, let us note one simple fact. Something always has to be sacrificed for something else. Everything in life has its own price and is ever up for sale. We have to purchase it at the price it demands. Day after day, we go up to life's counter and say, I will give you this if you will give me that. This bartering has another name more familiar perhaps. We call it sacrifice. Sacrifice, then, is not what our preachers have made it out to be. It is an inescapable necessity. It is a definite law that we must obey. We are sacrificing every day of our lives, whether we want to or not, whether we know it or not. No matter what we want of life, we have to give up something in order to get it. From one of the master's sayings, the modern mind shrinks back and tries to avoid. Straight is the gate, narrow is the way which leads unto life, and few there are that finds it. How we dislike to hear such words. We are through with narrowness, we say. We are more liberal today. We want the broad, open ways. We claim our freedom and declare that there is no need for us to be so narrow. We will not go through the small and narrow way. Yet, there are few statements that Jesus uttered that are more accurate and complete than that one. No man will ever find the richness of life in any realm by loose and casual wandering. Always he will have to go down a narrow way and through a straight gate called discipline. Go hear Chrysler play his violin and listen to music that is almost divine. Watch the skilled surgeon at his delicate task of repairing a broken body, that it may hold its life a little longer for the soul to grow stronger. Consider the scientist in his laboratory with his scientific formulas. Remember George Eliot saying that she was a young woman when she began Ramallah, but an old one when she finished.
We lost you there, Doc Fran, between hold the life a little longer, and then we lost you.
Okay. All right, let's see where I am here. Consider the scientist. Okay. Watch the skilled surgeon at his delicate task of repairing a broken body, that it may hold its life a little longer for the soul to grow stronger. Consider the scientist in his laboratory with his scientific formulas. Remember George Eliot saying that she was a young woman when she began Ramallah, but an old one when she finished it. Or think of Admiral Byrd flying over the South Pole and talking to us about it by means of radio. Are such experiences life? Indeed, they are. Liberated life of an attained achievement, the most satisfying sort of living man can ever know, but straight is the gate and narrow is the way of discipline that leads to such a life. When this law of sacrifice is carried over into the moral realm, it is commonly presented one-sided. We are taught that if we want to live a good life, we have to give up so many pleasures. How familiar that sounds to some of us. The result is that we rebel, and when we think of sacrifice, we think of the ones who have had to give up so much pleasure for goodness. Who are some of the great sacrificers in history? Well, there was Socrates, who drank the hemlock. There was Jesus, who was crucified on the cross. There was Paul, who was beheaded. There was Peter, who was crucified upside down. There was Luther and Wesley and Calvin, all religionists. There was Livingstone, Nightingale, and scores of others. But think for a moment, are they the ones who made the most terrific sacrifices? We speak of the supreme sacrifice of Jesus upon the cross. We read of the martyrdom of Saints Peter and Paul and John. But what about Judas Iscariot? Think of what he had a chance to become. Think of the companionship he once possessed and the place he might have occupied. Think of what he threw away. Think of what he got for it. And I say to you, the cross was not a sacrifice to be compared with what Judas paid. For but 30 pieces of silver in utter disgrace, he cast aside the richest opportunity of any man in all history. A youth who had disdained discipline, had cast aside restraint, and had his fling, wrote as he sat behind prison bars, 1,000 times I have paid in full for those few hours. This young man and his nephew, a few years his junior, had attended a revival meeting in a town not far from me, and on their way home they argued the question the minister had talked about at the meeting. The argument grew into angry words, and when they reached home, this anger had been fanned to a murderous heat. The younger man went into his room, got a gun, and shot at the uncle. The uncle in turn wrestled the gun and turned it upon the youth and killed him. I say this is costly living. We should take this earnestly unto ourselves and realize how the word sacrifice touches every one of us. A man called at my office seeking help in a very serious problem. He had a fine home, a lovely devoted wife, and 2 splendid children. It is true that the wife had taken up much of her time with the children, and the husband was going out to his club and social fairs alone. He had met another woman and thought he was in love with her. This was his problem. What about the family and the home? There's only one answer for any mortal to decide. The law will determine it for you. You cannot have a lovely home, a devoted family, and enjoy loose living. If you will not sacrifice or give up the loose living for the lovely home, you will be forced to sacrifice a lovely home and loved ones for loose living. You cannot enjoy the satisfactions and pleasures of a true friendship and indulge in a bad temper. If you will not sacrifice your temper for friendships, you will sacrifice your friendships for a bad temper. One cannot have a sterling character that friends will respect and trust and resort to crooked practices. If he will not give up his crooked ways for trustworthiness, he will have to sacrifice his trustworthiness for crookedness. You may ever be sure of this, no matter how far you may go before the rope gets tight, no matter how wild or how lax you may live, even though you think you are getting away with it and do, you cannot fool the law. Something always has to be paid for something else. All fine living, all success and happiness is like fine art. You must choose the spiritual beauty to be created and desired, then go the straight and narrow way to gain it. For the beginning of wisdom is first the desire of discipline. Some say then, if you want to enjoy the pleasures of life, this means that your freedom is impossible. It means, on the contrary, that you, who think this, have not found what real freedom is. This reminds me of a drunkard who was giving a stump lecture to the amusement of a few on the subject of freedom. He declared he wanted his freedom and that he had a right to drink all the liquor he wanted, and no government could stop him. He was having his freedom, and yet he was so drunk he did not know what he was saying or doing. Freedom is not living an obsessed, undisciplined life. Freedom is being able to control your life and make it what you want it to be. If you wish to become a skilled athlete, an efficient teacher, an expert lawyer, or a beautiful singer, the beginning of such success is first the desire for discipline of your time and thought. If you want that rich, radiant, and worthwhile specialty in living life, the rule is just the same. An undisciplined life is an insane life. We must pull ourselves together around high ideals of clean, serviceable, and effective living under the highest leadership we know, or under the teachings and the example of a master. The highest example of a master is the Christ. In all his work and teachings, he proved that discipline, self-control, and self-mastery would ever precede wisdom and achievement. Mrs. Lincoln had taught his words to little Abe, and it was because Abe grew into manhood and sacrificed his life of laziness, looseness, and careless meanderings for the straight and narrow, way of a disciplined life of principle and honesty and justice that caused him to become a great soul. It was the law of sacrifice working through him that enabled him to become the president and savior of a great nation. Evidence of this greatness was seen in his work at Washington. During the war, a young Vermont boy whose name was William Scott was sentenced to face the firing squad for being found asleep at his post. Now, it wasn't Scott's post, but that of his buddy, whom he had relieved when he became ill. Double duty was too much for Scott, so he fell asleep. He was so well liked by all that his captain and friends appealed his case to the president. Lincoln decided to go to Cambridge and handle the case in person. He went to the camp and talked to Scott. Scott said that he was the kindest person he had ever met. He said the president had asked him about his home, the farm, his friends, and lastly his mother. He said he was glad that he could draw a picture of her out of the bosom of his shirt and show it to him. Mr. Lincoln told him how thankful he should be to have a mother and how he should make her a proud mother, and he should never cause her another sorrow or tear. Scott thought it very strange that he did not speak of his fate in the morning. Strange that he should advise him not to cause his mother another sorrow or tear when he was about to die. Finally, he mustered up his courage and asked the president if he would grant one favor, namely that he would not have to face his friends, but at a firing squad be drawn from another company. Mr. Lincoln wheeled about and, facing Scott, said, "My boy, you are not going to be shot tomorrow. I am going to trust you and send you back to your friends, as I have been put to considerable troubles to come up from Washington. And how are you going to pay the bill?" The boy stammered his gratitude, and he suggested that he could send him his savings. He could borrow money by mortgaging the farm. His friends would help him too, and that was all his army pay. Then Mr. Lincoln put his hands on the boy's shoulder and looked sorrowfully into his face. He said, "My boy, my bill is a very large one. Your friends cannot pay it, nor your bounty, nor the farm, nor your comrade. There is only one man in all this world who can pay it, and his name is William Scott. If from this day William Scott does his duty so that if I were to be there when he comes to die, he can look me in the face as he is now doing and say, I have kept my promise, then my debt will be fully paid. William Scott kept that promise. He had learned the secret that Mr. Lincoln's mother had taught him when a boy. It was this law of sacrifice, and that the beginning of such wisdom was the first, the desire and love of discipline. That it was the straight and narrow way that led to the high road of everything that makes life worth living. It was the road that led Mr. Lincoln to the White House. It was the road that leads back to the Vermont hills, to home, to happiness, and to mother. It is the road for all who persevere and find it. It is the road that Jesus followed to triumph and mastery. It is the road I recommend to you, and on it you will find the sacrifice ever working to bring you the joys and pleasures that result always from the wisdom and understanding that accompany it. Blessed is the man who endures temptation, for when he is tried he shall receive the crown of life which the Lord, law, has promised to them that love the Lord, law. All right. There goes the gin.
Wow. Well, that is an incredible shaking to me. I mean, it's like I feel so much reaction for the word sacrifice. I really come from this world that, like flowing and being in alignment, and see. But I really get a deep understanding of what sacrifice. I mean, I think there is an old consciousness filter through sacrifice that will mean, like effort without the motivation for it, or the sacrifice that I can see enlightening right now, like will be more to make my own intention sacred, like very, how to say, like sometimes I organize my time and I really found, my discipline working out, but because I'm very clear on where I'm going to go and who I want to become, so that really pulls me towards what I'm looking. But I mean, I really have to make peace with that word. Like to get something, you have to give up something. I think for me, the getting is so powerful that I don't see myself, missing anything because I'm really focusing on what I want. So I want to hear all of us here because this chapter for me, I really understand, the being disciplined with your own self and to really master your mind and master your emotions and master your own consciousness, let's say. And in that level, I feel so passionate about it. I don't see the sacrifice, but the discipline I see. I can see that is really beneficial to me to, for example, have my routine and my discipline to do my meditation daily and to really spend the hours that I decide to spend doing my business and all that stuff. So interesting. I do want to open the call and to hear all of you guys to see what it is that we can integrate from this chapter to really take with us, because for me, I think we study these books to apply it in our life, how can I enjoy this sacrifice, in quote, concept that we are learning right now. So I can see you open, Celio. Welcome.
Yes, I will jump right through. Well, to me, there's one thing that, like Mr. Holloway, whenever he wrote the book, but he's talking about something I feel that nowadays is, I wouldn't say a sin, but we're so used right now to have instant gratification. It's like, we want to have everything right away. And to me, when he's talking about discipline and sacrifice, he's pointing directly at this thing of instant gratification. And there are, a few lines that Dr. Fran read that to me when I prepared the chapter, before this sentence when he says, always we will have to go to a narrow way and through a straight gate called discipline. Freedom is in being able to control your life and making it what you want it to be. So to me, for me is like the most crucial thing, when he talks about freedom and making the life that I want, that I want my life to be. Like we're talking nowadays a lot about creating our life, in everything is they're creating And I think in Mr. Holloway's time, they would, you know, it's like that would be considered like a sin. But to me, creating is that freedom. You know, if I want to create something that is worthwhile in my business, in my situation, I have, you know, I have to, you know, I have to be disciplined. I have to know exactly what I want and do exactly what it takes. And then he says, an undisciplined life is an insane life. We must pull ourselves together around high ideals of, I love that, of clean, serviceable, and effective living under the highest leadership we know, or under the teachings and example of a master. And I love that because I think it's so important to have like a guide or a master or several masters, but you know, like finding this direction in ourselves and in other, for example, in this context of the mastermind and you know, in the context of the main master that is definitely Christ, the Christ consciousness, and other masters that we can, you know, feel that we can get an example and be inspired and then follow that, you know. And of course, the word sacrifice for me was like, my God, I mean, really, that's the worst. But going deep and understanding that he's talking about freedom and understanding that he's talking about self-control and going to a deep understanding of what he's trying to say in the chapter, I just loved it because I see that, at least for me, is the only way to go through in life, in my objectives, in my vision. You know, you have to be disciplined from that point of view. You know, you have to, for example, to get ready to this mastermind, you know, just to allow that time to get into the chapter, to get into the consciousness. It takes something. It takes, you know, it takes discipline. So, you know, and in any endeavor, of course, in any situation, in any business, for me right now, I'm going through a situation that is totally about discipline. I have to be so clear on what I want and the way and the means and the way to get there and you know, whatever it takes. And you know, for me, so that's the main thing. And then I love when he talks about Abraham Lincoln and this guy, you know, Scott, because, you know, it's so beautiful, you know, when he goes to him and, you know, personally to see this guy that is being condemned. I love that part, you know, and the interaction between Scott and the president, you know, it really touched my heart, you know, because I see the president sees in this boy himself and his mother, his own mother. So that also touched my heart totally. So I really love this chapter. You know, this is, you know. So I keep one word, freedom. From everything of the chapter, I will keep the word freedom. That's for me, main key.
Wow. So beautiful, Celio. I love the way, I love your filter. I love the way you interpret everything. It's so rich, you know. And I like, you know, I totally agree with the instant gratification. To me, I think I'm learning because I don't understand sacrifice really because I don't experience that in me. It's like when I'm so clear about what I want, I think that clarity opens the space, so I don't see the effort. I don't see the giving up anything because I want that so much, you know, like in my case, if I do want to, you know, experience to be in alignment and to really be connected with source, I really do my meditation. It's like I want that so much that I'm not thinking anything else. So that's what to me, I will title this chapter discipline, you know, instead of sacrifice. But I think because the memories that I have with that word, not because the word is wrong or anything like that. But I love what you said. And I think that the instant gratification is something that I'm really learning from experience, because I always expected, you know, like that instant gratification. I sign up for something, it has to be now, you know, or I change, I think one beautiful thought, you know, affirmation, and that's forever. Well, it's not, you know, you really have to use the perseverance and the discipline and the time that it takes to change a habit and to change a level of consciousness, you know. So thank you so much, Celio. I really feel inspired because it's so kind of experiential what you share, you know. And then something that you pointed also that I think is very beautiful is how much veneration or admiration or appreciation this chapter offers towards the mother, you know, like to don't allow your mother to be disappointed, you know, about you, like, you know, like the mother, and I go to the mother capital letters, you know, to the world of forms, you know, to just be noble, you know, and be authentic with yourself, and have the discipline from your heart, you know. So thank you, Celio, beautiful. Thank you very much. Okay, who else feels like sharing your wisdom here? Yes, beautiful Candace, welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. Well, I'm really touched by this chapter. Of course, do I say that every week? I probably do, because the book's so amazing. But I think it's interesting that he waited to talk about sacrifice until later in the book, until we really have some building blocks underneath us in our consciousness and our thinking, to be able to support something so profound. And I was also thinking, because we all sacrifice. My friends and I, three of us, had a talk last night about how we, all three of us, want to do something different at different times, and the other two get to kind of either wait or go along with, or anyway, small sacrifices of time to be together. You want to do this? I don't really want to, but I'll go with you. You know, just little things. And he was talking about such huge things, the boy's life and great people and the sacrifices they made and so on. I just brought it into my little small daily life, because that was an example that was up where everybody gets to share. You know, we all get to treat each other equally, so to speak. You get some time, you do what you like, and I get to, and her turn, and so on. Anyway, I was really touched by an undisciplined life is an insane life. The same words popped up for me as did for you, Thelio. And I feel like that, and then also further along was the sentence about the desire and love of discipline. I feel like that desire and love of discipline came to me later in my life. I was a more mature person by the time that idea became even interesting in the least, because I was too busy. I exaggerate, but you know, I was more having fun and joke and play, and still got a few things done. But anyway, but to have that love of discipline and to understand the rewards that can come from it. You know, a yoga practice that happens every day, or I did a number of 40 days. You guys are doing this huge juice fast. What a sacrifice! 28 days on a fast is no joke. I have done that. So, but the rewards will be wonderful. The rewards will be, you know, will be tangible and worth it. And I loved what you said, Dr. Monica, about making your intentions sacred. Oh my goodness, how beautiful! How I can see where your great sensitivity comes from that thought, in a sense, from your divine self, and what Thelio said about making my freedom is my life, making it how to be, making it how I want it to be, rather. Potent stuff, very thought-provoking, and very, boy, I'm glad to know what we're talking about here from my own life, and I'm glad that we're all here sharing from our wisdom. Don't give up the gin, Dr. Fran, entirely, for heaven's sakes. And with that, I'll sign off.
Thank you so much, Candace. I love, I mean, I think you have also a beautiful filter here. And you were right on. I just got something in when you were talking about the juicing thing, you know. Like it is a discipline, no doubt. But I don't feel what I interpret as a sacrifice is like I give up something. Yes, I give up, for example, the pasta and the dreams that I'm dreaming about. I cannot wait to have my first dinner, you know, like normal, let's say. But I don't think about it because I'm so committed to do 28 days on this thing that, you know, it's not a matter of, it's almost like I think I come from this religious education when I was a child, you know, where sacrifice was giving up yourself for someone else, you know, like to really diminish, you know, your own truth, you know. So, and that was gifted, that was rewarded, you know, in the religion at that time. I suppose today maybe too, you know. And I have some people in my life today that they act that way all the time. They are all day long sacrifice themselves, and it's like, who are you really, you know? I mean, do you have your own drive force or something like that? So I love what you were saying, that the discipline and to really take out the pressure that I have myself onto the world of sacrifice, you know. And I love, instead of sacrifice, I make it sacred, you know. It's like, okay, this is a sacred intention, you know, and compensate everything. I mean, compensate my pasta and everything, because I'm not going to recreate myself. Oh my gosh, I cannot do this or I cannot do that. No, I'm recreating myself, or I'm doing this because I'm really curious about how my body responds, and I want to really, you know, lightening to make my body lighter, you know, and to see how, and it's responding super well, the truth. I mean, I'm very happy with the process, you know. So thank you for that. I think I did a click inside, you know, of yes, I am sacrificing and disciplining in that direction, you know. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. The thought occurs to me that I'd like to have to go look it up. I don't know Latin that well, but you might know, Monica. But sacrifice, sacred, aren't they both sangre? Aren't they both related to our blood? I mean, they're that deep in us.
Exactly. Yeah, I have.
Possibly.
Yeah, probably.
I just put an essay as a possible.
Exactly.
Etiology of the word.
Thank you so much, Candice. Let's see if Mr. Arne or Doc Fran.
Yeah, just a little bit here on the sacrifice. On one level, it can just be that you can't do two opposite things. So, if you're drinking, before a year ago I was drinking a lot, and in order to not drink, then I had to sacrifice drinking. So you can't do both in it. And the way, once it's chosen, once I choose something, then I'm not choosing something else. I'm choosing to not do something else. And that's the way I understand he's talking about sacrifice. I'm choosing something, which means I'm choosing to not do something else that I usually do. So that becomes a sacrifice, and it touched me very much what he said in the book, that the freedom is not to just be doing anything, but the freedom is to be able to create the life that I really want, and to choose what I want to create. And excuse me, the work that could be considered work. Okay, now I have to, like, wait a minute, I have to stop doing what I normally do because it doesn't create what I want to create. So now I have to work on creating what I want to create in my freedom. And it could be considered work unless, like you said, Monica, we have a great motivation for it. If we have a reason to stop, like I stopped drinking a year ago because I was unhealthy. So I had a motivation of not drinking because that would make me healthy. So that was not a lot of work in doing that. So depending on if we have a motivation, if we don't have a motivation, it's a lot of work and it's not permanent. We will fall back on it again. And yeah, so finding the freedom, that's what I'm taking out here. Actually, I've been thinking lately, maybe, I can drink a little bit like that, and maybe I can. But if I do it and it's not going to create the life that I want to create, then I have to sacrifice not doing that. But I have my reason for it, and it might be a little work in remembering my motivation, in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Arne. I love that freedom. You know, I think that also, you know how much I love the masculine and feminine dance and all that stuff. So I think that, you know, this book could be very masculine in the sense of direction and clarity in the laws, you know, like the way they work. And this is an aspect of the universe. And then the feminine comes in, that is the flow. And well, you know, we are super flexible. If life goes this direction, we take it, and go the other. That I personally make a lot of peace of that. With that aspect of life, because I was very, very controlling and very afraid. I would say now I'm much more loving, and I think I can include, you know, the flowing and the direction that really gives me the fun aspect of life. It's like a river without the sides of the river, you know. There is no river. There is no really joy of moving here, you know. So I love that we can find that, you know, balanced way of seeing that sacrifice is not an imposition, you know. It's not something that you do against your will. It's the opposite, you know. You get the freedom by really seeing, you know. I like what you said, Arne, also about that life going flowfully, you know, to be clear in the direction that you want, whatever it is that you want to create. And it has a lot to do to me to making peace with ambition, you know. Like, you know, there is a lot of ways, like I met a lot of people in the hippie time, or included today, here where we live in the community, you know, where there is no ambition at all, you know. People are where they are, and they are, you know, this kind of, they call themselves very easygoing, you know, and da-da-da, but you don't take decisions. You know, I cannot see the strength. Do you hear me? Okay.
They say retired.
Retired, yes, for example, you know, and you know, I feel a lot of passion for ambition, not over anything, but like you were saying right now, Arne, for the ambition, the passion that I have inside for creating the life that I want to enjoy. That doesn't mean that I'm not enjoying the life that I have, but I would love to expand and to experience my freedom in a different way. So thank you for that, Arne. It was very beautiful. Thank you. I'm learning a lot today. Beautiful. And okay, I think, Doc Fran, we are ready to close if you want to say something, and if not, we can start to complete the call here. But let me know if you can hear me. I can see the picture there, so I don't know if you can hear me or not. Yes, you can hear me. Beautiful.
All right. I enjoyed the discussion greatly, and you know, what occurred to me as I was reading this is that we very typically put a negative connotation on the idea of sacrifice, that we have to deprive ourselves of something to get something else. And as I was listening to all of the discussion here, and you know, Celia, you always articulate so clearly, Candace, you as well. And when Arne talked about, I choose to do this, and that's really what was occurring to me, was the idea that this is nothing more than free will. We're endowed by our Creator with free will, and free will means that we have the ability to choose, and every choice has a response in the universe associated with it. So just as nothing, you know, matter cannot be created or destroyed, energy can only be transmuted but never destroyed, then all actions are the same way. You either do one action or another, and the selection of one action obviates the other. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say that you want to lose weight and shape up. Well, you know, you then immediately have this hunger for a cookie that you're looking at right now. Well, you have a choice. You either eat the cookie, which would probably be detrimental to your stated desire to manifest weight loss, or you can give in to the immediate desire for the cookie and delude yourself into believing that that one cookie isn't going to change the course of your weight loss regimen. and then lo and behold, you don't lose weight. So, you know, you do pay. Everything comes at a cost somewhere along the way. There is an exchange. Rather, cost is not a good word, but everything is an exchange, and it's neither good nor bad. It's not the idea that you're giving up something to get something else, that there's not a negative connotation to it. But we're trained to automatically gravitate to the negative. Our whole life experience is centered around looking at the negative, looking at the lack, and trying to avoid it. So I found it quite enlightening just in the fact that I no longer view the word sacrifice in a negative connotation. So I appreciate you guys for clarifying that.
Beautiful. Great. Well, thank you so much, Doc Fran, for the amazing reading, for your feedback here. I mean, your experience, sharing your experience too, and all of us for really engaging and being here every week. That's what we do. We try to integrate, learn, grow, expand, and I think today I really go home with this empowering thing. You know, if the vision is clear,
There. Okay, you're back.
Yes, in the beginning about, you know,
we didn't hear you at all until
really?
now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I was just closing the call by saying thank you to everyone, and to really appreciate that I'm going home understanding right now about the sacrifice in the sense of being clear, allowing the ambition that I have to take place, and to really support, like same thing like with the dressing. You know, if I want this lifestyle that I want to experience, and you know, to get the discipline and to take the actions that are needed to build up our business. And that's what I wanted, Arne, in the beginning, to really share, you know, the passion for the second wave of social media, where it's really a new organism that is coming out and that we are building here together. So with this done, I thank you very much, all of you. We are going to get together next Saturday. Is going to be March 14 already, half of the month again, and I wish you a wonderful week applying all of this. And the ones that we are here in the panel, thank you for showing up, and the ones that we are listening in the other side, thank you too, and just have a wonderful week. Thank you.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you.